All right, I think we are on, guys. Taking a look here, make sure we got the right stream. See that? Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
You too.
Yeah. Okay, all right. I think we are on the right stream here, guys. I'm just double checking on that. Looks like we are. Want to apologize. I'm sorry, everybody, for being a little late. I sent a message out in the group me or in the chat saying that we were having some major technical difficulties. Of course, right before we want to start our live stream, that is when it decides to give us issues. We tested earlier today, it was working fine, and then now it all falls apart. But we're here. We're good to go. And we are so glad to be back. So, guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight here on the Gridiron Expert. It's a little past 8 o'clock again. I apologize for being a little bit late. Mitch, I saw your comment. We're going to go through those here in a second. But we're going to get everything set up, and we are here all night, guys. We're going to go for a couple hours at least, talking about what has been a very historic and wild and unprecedented past 24 hours in college football. So let's get our phone plugged in here, guys, and we are going to come out with our phone number so we can do some calls here in a little bit. We're going to try to hook everything up the best we can. Make sure we're synced up there. All right, again, I thank you guys for bearing with us as we were struggling there a few minutes ago. I'm going to take the moment to hop in through the chat here, see who we have on the line with us today. Avery Boy, Ethan the Buckeye, and Scott Van Kale. Always good to see you. And guys, let me tell you one thing about Scott. If you've been watching our videos for a while, I'm sure you've all seen it. Down in the comment section, Scott does a fantastic job of keeping us up to date with everything related to college football. And if you are a Baylor Bears fan especially, he does a fantastic job keeping you up to date about anything Baylor Bears related, anything regarding Baylor athletics. So, Scott, we genuinely, I think all of us, we've seen a few comments, genuinely appreciate all of the news updates and all of the comments from you on our videos, because sometimes we're hearing things from you that we haven't seen anywhere else. So, always glad to have you, Scott. Give us some song recommendations up there. DM, love talking to DM here. Of course, throwing me right at me with some Trey Lance news that he's been named to the Manning Award watch list, 30 players, as the only FCS quarterback. And, of course, he might not even get recognized as the Manning Award recipient or couldn't even contend for it due to all these cancellations. But, DM, thank you so much for your years and years of support here at the Gridiron Expert. We're so pumped to have you here with us. Same for Cyclone Mitch, calling me out for being a little late. Again, we're here now. I apologize for it, but, Mitch, always happy to have you. And I hope things are going well with you and your team as well. I hope we've talked about it a little bit, but I hope things are going well among your football program and everybody staying safe and healthy, because I know you guys went through a little bit of a quarantine spell, maybe a bit of a COVID scare as well. So hope you're getting through that, not partying too hard. Ethan the Buckeye again. 76ers are winning. Always keeping me up to date on his Columbus, Ohio news. Cameraman Edits is the one who hit us up with the phone box. Going to have the phone charged so we can get some calls in. See who else we have. Jeremiah. Jeremiah was telling us that he was going to be here tonight. And Jeremiah, we're going to talk a lot about how the playoffs are going to happen. We're going to talk a lot about what the cancellations for the Big 12, for the Big Ten and the Pac-12 mean for college football. And, of course, what we're going to talk about today as well is the Big 12 announcing their brand new schedule, which is huge in terms of us playing football just here in a few weeks, guys. Dontron Plays is here, hoping that Florida might be able to slip into the playoff. Hunter Shin is here, always happy to talk Virginia Tech ball with him. I'm so happy to have you here as well. And Jacob, usually one of the first guys to comment on our videos, is here with us as well, along with Destry Sparks, who's a big East Carolina fan, guys. If you didn't know, if you want to talk some East Carolina football, I think Destry is the Scott Van Kale when it comes to East Carolina football. And always happy to have you. And, of course, always happy to talk some Group of 5 football as well. A nice break from all the Power 5 talk. So, guys, before we jump into the phone lines here, I do want to take a moment to just briefly kind of discuss everything that has happened. And, of course, you know, a lot of you guys have known as I'm trying to get all of our numbers lined up here. But you all know what has happened over the past 24 hours, and that is that the Big Ten and the Pac-12 canceled their college football season. We put out a video on that yesterday. We discussed that. We wanted to kind of get that news out to you guys as quick as we could. And we kind of really released our inner feelings on that. We didn't hold back. We were very disappointed. We were disgusted, really, with the leadership and the planning that came down to this decision being made. And that's one of the reasons we wanted to have this special live stream tonight, guys. We haven't had one in a few months, but we are super happy to be back to kind of get your takes on and your thoughts on these decisions and what it's going to mean for the future of college football. Because while those two conferences decided to sit out, we do know that the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12, so 3 of the 5 Power 5 conferences, plan on playing football. The Big 12, I think, has a couple non-conference games slated for September 12th, which is when the ACC, I believe, is going to begin as well. And then the SEC and Big 12 will pick things up on September 26th. So later in the month, a few weeks after college football is slated to begin, but still, anything is better than nothing. And also keep in mind that we do have a handful of Group of 5 programs and conferences, American Athletic, Conference USA, Sun Belt, that are all hoping to play as well. So the more teams that play, the better. 53 so far have canceled. Not quite half of the FBS. 65 teams would be half of the FBS, so we're just a little bit below that mark. But things certainly seem to be trending in the right direction despite the devastating news that we received yesterday and the poor decision-making that we saw yesterday as well. So that's kind of our breakdown here. We want to try to get to as many questions and comments and calls as possible. The first hour or so of this show, guys, will be solely dedicated to your calls. So the first hour of the show is going to be dedicated to everybody that's able to call in. We're going to try to limit it to about a 5-minute talking spree here. We're going to try to limit it to about 5-minute calls so we can get through as many as possible. The back half of the show, solely dedicated to the live chat because we know we're going to have a lot, and we know that we always have some great discussion in there as well. So, again, first half calls, second half live chat, 24/7, all 2-3 hours of this dedicated to college football. So before we jump into it, I want to make sure we run through the rest of the live chat. I don't want to get too far behind. Cyclone Mitch loves talking on Twitter. I love talking to Mitch on Twitter. I've talked to Destry on Twitter. I've talked to DM a lot through emails. So, guys, we can't always just talk here on YouTube. We can. But cause I love to get back to your comments on the videos, but there's always other ways we can talk football. Email, Twitter, Instagram now. We have an Instagram page. You can always send direct messages through Instagram. And we always get back to you guys. Always, always, always we'll get back to you regardless of how you reach out to us. Facebook even. I know a lot of people don't like to use Messenger. Kind of old school, but we still use that from time to time. So always happy to talk football any time of day with anyone out there. Will Burrow, nice to have you here. Hook 'em horns, baby, right there. Mark TR and Mina. Of course, Big 12, our thoughts on not canceling. We're going to get to those very, very soon. And Gerald Burt as well. Nice to have you here, although it's been a very long time. I don't remember seeing you in a while, Gerald, so nice to have you. Having said that, guys, let's jump straight into the live call-ins. I'm going to punch it in here on our live chat, but the number, 901-297, it's been a while, I can't remember it, 4545, 901-297-4545. That is the call-in number for tonight. Again, the first hour solely dedicated to your calls and your thoughts alone. Mike Myrick on with us tonight. Go Noles, as always, Mike. I'm glad that the ACC hasn't canceled. I know you are happy that Florida State will still be playing. Hunter Shin, of course, still happy that Virginia Tech will still be playing. So still plenty of positives to come out of this. Still plenty of big-name schools to still be playing football as of right now. Getting our first call from Phoenix, Arizona. Let's take a listen here.
To accept, press 1.
We're going to get back to that.
Press 2. Call from Hunter. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. To send a voicemail, press 2. I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
And we had difficulty with guys. Call back. I'm sorry. We had 3 calls coming in at one time, and I think we had difficulties there too. Today's just not our day with technology being very unkind to us. I'm telling you. I know one of those was Hunter. I think another one may have been Destry, so I apologize to both of you guys. Give us a call back. We need someone to start screening these calls and make it a little easier on us. Let's take a look here. Cole Converse, happy to have you. John Hopkins, happy to have you with that beautiful Kentucky introduction. Very similar to the Jets, New York Jets chant that they do up in New York. And I hate to say it, John, I'm not a huge Jets fan at all. Gerald Burt, Cole Converse, teams should use the Iowa State COVID helmet their engineering department came up with. And Cole and Mitch, both very good when it comes to knowledge about Iowa State. So if you want to talk some Iowa State ball, get with them. Let's take a look right here. We're getting a call from Louisville, and we're actually going to answer this one, and hopefully it'll work well for us.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
All right, you're on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have with us? Is anybody there?
Logan.
I'm sorry?
Logan.
Logan?
Yes.
Hey, Logan, how's it going?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. So, today we're mostly talking about the cancellations, of the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. So, kind of what's on your mind and your thoughts on that, and let's just lay it on us.
It's unfortunate. Hopefully the other 3 can resume fall football, but to my experience, I don't think it's going to happen. I'm a huge college football fan, but I don't think it's going to happen.
Now, why do you say that?
It's just, I don't see how they're going to do the college football playoffs. It was just, I don't know.
That's fair enough. Was there anything else that's on your mind, Logan? Anything else you're looking to discuss tonight?
No.
No? All right. Well, hey, Logan, we appreciate you calling in, man, and that's something that we're continuing to discuss tonight is the fate of the college football playoff and if it's going to be feasible. So if you stay with us tonight, we'll definitely continue to dive into that.
All right. Thank you.
All right. Thanks for calling in, Logan. All right, Logan from Louisville or Louisville. DM and I always go back and forth on the pronunciation of Louisville. I always say Louisville with the hard E, but I know it can be pronounced many different ways. Now we're getting a call from Oskaloosa, Iowa. And I think I know who this might be.
Accept, press 1.
All right, you're on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have tonight?
You have Cole Converse.
Cole Converse, the great Cole Converse. How are you doing?
Not doing too bad tonight. Just sitting on my porch up in Iowa right now, and I just kind of wanted to say, I think this could be a very good opportunity for the Big 12 conference structurally going forward, because if they were to have a full college football season and have the proper protocols in place, then there is little to minimal impact on athletes. So I think not only is the Big Ten going to have a lot of egg on their face, but I really think the Big 12 could set the gold standard for how to properly test athletes, but also from a recruiting and revenue standpoint, it could really be a big deal. And, the final thing I want to say is, I think people that want to play football this year, we understand COVID is a bit, there's a risk involved. We understand the implications of it. We understand how serious we need to take it. But I'll just say that, before COVID came around, life was about risk, reward, and using common sense to determine the balance. And nothing's changed from that now. And I just feel with what the Big Ten did, it was just way too premature. And I really think the Big 12 has a great opportunity here to set a good example for the testing and well-being of athletes going forward.
I think you really hit the nail on the head there, Cole. I love what you said about prior to COVID, just about, I mean, obviously back in the day, or even, I mean, I say back in the day, as recently as January and December, it was about taking risks. And, you're never going to get anywhere really by playing it always safe. And like you said, I know COVID is it is something that's very dangerous. It is something that's real, something that we have to be careful and considerate of. But, one thing that really stuck out to me is, people have opted out of playing college football. Players, coaches even have maybe decided not to coach if they didn't want to. And that's understandable. And as many players have voiced their opinions on this, if it's okay to opt out, why can't we opt in? And especially, why can't we just sign a waiver? Because I know liability is a major concern among all these programs. But you look at it, one guy made a good point. We have to sign waivers about getting concussions, about getting injured. How is that any different than playing in the middle of a pandemic? Because when you're playing a game like football, you do run the risk of getting severely injured. And I just don't see how that could be any different in a situation like this.
Well, and I had kind of one more thought too, and this is maybe kind of unrelated. This is kind of a monetary matter, but I would think that the Big Ten network and the Pac-12 network might be open to litigation from consumers who pay for their channels because they're not getting what they paid for.
Right.
And, I hear all these people saying, oh, the Big Ten, $50 million, you don't want to pass up all this Big Ten money. Well, where's this $50 million going to come from? Not only this year, but like I said, if the Big 12 takes this opportunity and handles it correctly, it's going to really shift recruiting. It's going to really shift really everything, and I think it's going to take a lot more than just one season for conferences like the Big Ten to recover. And I think, you're seeing two, in my opinion. One, the commissioner of the Big Ten, he's in his first season, I believe. He just doesn't have the experience to make these decisions. And in the Pac-12, I think you have one of the most incompetent commissioners in sports. You look at their performance in all major sports, football, basketball, everywhere across the board. If he were in the private sector, he'd be out on his butt dusting off his resume right now. So, people want to talk about how noble these Big Ten and Pac-12 commissioners were with these decisions. Well, let's not forget, one of the commissioners, it's his first year, and this is his first rodeo, and the other one, I think, has one of the worst track records of any commissioner I've ever seen. I mean, the Big 12 had a commissioner in Dan Beatty about not even as bad as Larry Scott once, and Oklahoma and Texas and all of them forced him out quickly. Right.
Well, I think, Cole, that's actually more of a testament to how obviously different they take football out west among those Pac-12 conferences. Football down the south, obviously, SEC. Even stretching over to Oklahoma, Texas, Iowa, even that Midwestern region is taken very seriously. More so maybe compared to the western region of the country, and you have certainly seen that not just in the decision making, but also in the results on the field and on the court over the past few years.
Yeah,
and Cole, hold on, keep that thought. I'm going to answer this call from Mitch, and we're going to get right back to you.
Okay.
Call from.
Hey, Mitch, this is you, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mitch, hold on. I'm going to finish up with Cole. We're going to get right to you. All right, so I think he knows. We got Mitch on hold. So, Cole, we're going to wrap up here with you, but go ahead. What was your final thought on that?
Well, again, just to kind of reiterate, it's a great opportunity for the Big 12. I really think at the end of the day, it's about, risk, reward, common sense. And then also this whole idea that these conferences are going to be playing spring football, that's a pipe dream for two reasons. One, these people who are wanting to go to the NFL, they're not even going to be playing anyway because they're going to be, if they play spring college football season and then go right in the NFL, their body's going to be taking such a physical beating, they're not even going to be able to be 100% when they start training camp, which is going to hurt their chances to make an NFL roster for a lot of them.
Right.
The second thing, if you want to talk about the safety, health, and well-being of our athletes, is it really safe, healthy, and looking out for our athletes' well-being to have these athletes play in the spring all the way up to April, and then all of a sudden, you're doing workouts again in June, training camp in July, you're already playing again in the fall and August? Football's a rough sport. I think you got to give them a lot more time to recover and get the full strength in that. I just don't think it's safe for our athletes.
Cole, I fully agree with you, and that's something we're going to touch on here later in the show. But thank you so much for calling in.
Yeah, appreciate it.
You got it. All right, so the great Cole Converse, of course, talking with us a little bit on some Iowa State. Obviously, Iowa State fan, but also just football in general, guys. The opportunity arising for the Big 12, how bad Larry Scott is with the Pac-12, and he brings up a brilliant point about the possibility of spring football, and that is something that we're going to discuss here very shortly. We're going to get to Mitch here in 1 second. I do want to point out a couple of comments here in the chat, though, guys, because I don't want to get too far behind on those. DM making a fantastic point here. Now, I think this is a kind of a funny topic here about quarantining. FCS team Fordham was going to travel over 5,000 miles, guys, to go and play Hawaii. Obviously, extremely ridiculous. But you think about this: Hawaii might be one of the safest places to be right now in the midst of this COVID outbreak, because there's a series of islands. A series of islands, and it's extremely difficult to get off those islands, and it's not very easy to get over to those islands as well. And of course, they're considered a part of the United States, so you necessarily couldn't put a travel ban over to Hawaii. But to me, they're almost in their own little bubble. They're almost in their own little bit of quarantine there. I haven't done enough research on the other states outside of my own, but I'm willing to bet that Hawaii is not that bad when it comes to their COVID cases from March until now. So unfortunate for the Rainbow Warriors that the Mountain West decided to cancel their season, which of course would have required Hawaii and other teams to travel to and from the island. But regardless, kind of interesting fact there. And DM, thank you for sharing that, because that is absolutely ridiculous. That's a long way to travel for you to most likely get beat very badly. So we're going to get back to the chat here in a second, guys. I do want to talk to Mitch here. Always enjoy talking with him on Twitter. And let's talk to him now right here on the show. Mitch, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you, Alex?
I'm doing good, man. It's like I said, always love talking with you on Twitter. We've been doing a lot more of that lately, since we haven't been doing live streams. And you've been able to get me a lot of good articles and some good information, and vice versa. So we're happy to have you.
Yeah, I'm happy to talk about some stuff. First thing I want to talk about is that Big Ten is a horrible conference, obviously.
Are you saying that because of just Iowa alone, Mitch?
No.
Well, lay it on me. Let's hear it.
They have terrible leadership. They obviously don't care about their student athletes. Mm-hmm. If they cared about their student athletes, they play, but it's just so stupid, You have those schools, I think, that are like, I'm not making this political, but are like more like towards liberal, and then that are kind of soft, and then they don't want to play, and then they just don't care about their student athletes.
Sure. I mean, there's a lot of these topics, Mitch, I do want to touch on here very soon, and we won't take too much time on y'all's calls to dive deep into those, but I would agree with you in the sense that the Big Ten, leadership-wise, has been absolutely abysmal. Same with the Pac-12. That's something that Cole brought up and discussed, and I would fully agree with that. So I do want to touch on that in here a little bit, but what else do you have?
Yeah, so Big Ten, they're a horrible conference, and that shows that Nebraska should leave the Big Ten and head towards the Big 12 like right now, and especially since the Big Ten won't even let other teams join the conference if they want to play a season.
Right, and that's the one thing, guys, that has really surprised me is the threat from the Big Ten guys. Nebraska especially is the program out of the Big Ten that oddly enough, seems the most adamant about trying to have a season. And I've seen, memes and people putting that out there, guys, saying, look, Nebraska wasn't going to contend for a playoff spot this year. They weren't. The best they could have done, guys, was to hope to get to their first bowl game under Scott Frost, and that's it. But yet Nebraska is the one that is fighting the hardest to find another conference to play in instead of someone like an Ohio State, a Michigan, a Penn State, guys like that. And I think that's extremely surprising. And yet Nebraska try and do what's best for what they want, and they think it's best for their coaches and their athletes and their fans. They're now getting threatened by the Big Ten, saying they could risk getting booted from the conference entirely if they kept searching for somewhere else to play.
Yeah, and I fully am on Nebraska's side for that because they obviously want to have season. They obviously want their players to stay and not do a stupid spring season, which is just stupid in my opinion. You got the NFL Combine, then how are you going to recover from a torn ACL? You'd probably be out for 2 seasons.
Right. I mean, that's yeah. And, I look at this, if I was Nebraska, and you saw Desmond Howard, I'm sure, I don't know if you watched Get Up at all recently.
Yeah.
But, Desmond Howard came out there. Was saying that he thinks, he thinks Nebraska should get out. I think the Big Ten should want Nebraska out. And I think that's ridiculous as well. I think, I think Nebraska is doing what I think everybody wants to do, just no one has the guts to actually try to make the moves to do it. So I credit their administration, I credit their coaches and their players for trying to do what they want. And I really think at the end of the day, that's what it should have come down to. I really think it should have come down to, do you want to play? Do you not want to play? Individuals even. Do you want to play? Do you not want to play? If you're too scared because of COVID or you just don't want to do it, that's fine. We'll hold nothing against you. If you want to play and you want to take that risk, we're going to go out there, we're going to ball out. The rest of the conference doesn't want to.
Yeah.
So I guarantee you the SEC and especially the Big 12, because of their former ties, would love to bring in Nebraska for a year. I see it being no different than what Notre Dame's doing within the ACC.
Oh, definitely. And the people that are trashing on Nebraska, since 1970, Nebraska has won 5 titles, and then the rest of the Big Ten has 3 national titles. So, and Nebraska is a huge moneymaker school for football.
Absolutely. I mean, I think they had at one point the longest sellout streak in history, I think, among college football. So,
yeah.
And their fan base through thick and thin is one of the best in the nation. And they're a blue blood. I mean, at the end of the day, Nebraska historically is a blue blood college football program. And, while they haven't necessarily been relevant nationally in a very long time, I don't see why they couldn't get some football play this year if they really wanted to.
Yeah, so it's so crazy. Obviously, Iowa State out of Louisiana took the schedule today. So
I did see that.
They'll play.
Did see that. Kansas State is adding my alma mater and Arkansas State, so that'll be one I'll have my eye on. So hey, those are 2 solid Sun Belt schools getting a crack at some Big 12 schools. I don't expect wins for either, but should be pretty interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, especially one of the best teams out of that conference.
Absolutely, yeah. I think Louisiana, maybe outside of App State, is the favorite within the Sun Belt. So will certainly be a game to keep our eye on for sure. I think Iowa State takes care of business, but I think you and I both know it might be close, at least for a half.
Yeah, and for the schedule, I'm kind of happy we played TCU first on the road because I just think they're just too inexperienced. We're just going to knock the crap out of them.
Well, yeah, I look at TCU. I like everything that Gary Patterson's doing. I still think they're just a year or 2 away from getting back to that Pac-12, the Big 12 title and playoff contender level like they were just a few years ago.
Yeah, and Big 12 is Bob Bolsky. He's doing a great job with this.
Right. Yeah, I think Bowlesby is doing a very solid job as Big 12 commissioner. I think when you look across the board, and Mitch will leave this because I think we're getting another call here in a second, but you look at Bob Bowlesby and what he has done, not only with the college football playoff, but what he's done with the Big 12 has been really impressive in terms of just trying to, I think, communicate with everybody, trying to make the best decision. When you look at the slate of college football as a whole, I would put him and probably Greg Sankey up there as the top 2 commissioners in terms of how they've handled this whole pandemic.
Yeah, like I said, he you really, really care about your student athletes, you're going to have a season. Because we saw that movement. We want to play, hashtag, and then lots of other players joined on the Trevor Lawrence train of that.
Yeah, it was a movement. Again, I agree with you. If your players are that adamant that they want to play, then you should probably find a way to let them play. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
and the Big Ten and the Pac-12, I think, let their players, their fans, their coaches down in a very big way, and the confidence in them going forward, pandemic or not, has decreased drastically.
Yeah, and that's I think, it's going to suck for recruiting in the future because the teams are going to see that and they're going to be like, well, Big Ten really doesn't care about their student athletes as much as the Big 12 or SEC does.
Right.
So that will really impact recruiting.
Absolutely. And Mitch, we'll talk some more on that here in a second regarding everything that you've discussed and Cole's discussed. But Mitch, hey, thanks for calling in, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, see you.
Talk to you soon. All right, so our good friend Cyclone Mitch bringing up some fantastic points, guys, and I'm going to throw that number back in the chat here in 1 second, and I want to make sure we catch up on the chat a little bit as well. But you look at this, guys, Mitch making an excellent point here. If you care about your student athletes, you would play college football. And that almost sounds petty, that almost sounds selfish, especially coming from maybe someone like me, who is obviously a diehard college football fan, as are many of you, all of you, really, here watching this stream, all 27 of you, by the way, 28 now. Thank you all so much. Of course, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're not already. That goes a long way for us. But, you guys, to me, it just doesn't make any sense. I think we brought it up with Cole. We mentioned that, if you're able to sign a waiver for concussions, if they're going to make you sign a waiver saying you acknowledge the fact that playing football for our program could result in an injury, a concussion, hell, it could even result in you getting paralyzed, guys. One bad hit, one wrong way of your neck, and you could be paralyzed forever. And we've seen that happen before, guys. Football is a dangerous sport, yet we play it. These players know the risks that they are taking. They know the risks they're taking, and they certainly would know now in this year, despite everything that's been going on, the risk they would be taking, not just physically through injuries, but also the chance they could catch this coronavirus. If you can sign a waiver, basically making it free of, making these universities and these programs, not liable for your injuries, why can't you do the same when it comes to the coronavirus? And furthermore, why does it make sense? And as many of players have already put out on Twitter and on Instagram, and have made it very clear to us, why does it make sense that we're not allowed to play football, yet you're going to send me to school and expect me to go to class, expect me to eat in the cafeteria, expect me to do everything on campus, or a campus filled with thousands and thousands of students? Where does that make sense? You look at a school of maybe 40,000 people, 40,000 students enrolled at a school. You expect that athlete to go to class. You expect him to interact, and he's going to interact. They're going to go to parties. They're going to eat. They're going to have people in their dorm rooms, their apartments, wherever they may be living. All that's going to happen, yet it's not safe to play football where you would be interacting with these same people just about every single day. The only exception to that would be when you face somebody else on the field. You can't do a bubble for college football just like the NBA is doing. That's not feasible. It's not possible. These guys aren't pros. They're not getting paid. So it's not feasible and reasonable to expect these guys to hole up in a bubble for 3 or 4 months and only practice and only play games until the season's over. You can't do that, and no one's ever said you have to. But it's time that someone starts making a little bit more and putting a little more thought into this and starts using some common sense and saying, guys, if we're going to send them to class, if we think it's okay to send them to class and basically live life like we were doing last year, then it should be okay to let them play football. Again, it might sound selfish, it might sound wrong, it might give you the impression that we think football is the most important thing in the world, which obviously it's not. But at the end of the day, to me, it's not that big of a deal. At the end of the day, to these players, it is the most important thing to them. It is the most important thing to them. And they want to play. They're the ones bringing in the money. They're the reason your football program is relevant, or maybe not, but they are the reason that they're bringing in a bunch of money to your university, to your school. So why not let them play? It just doesn't make sense. And why punish the teams and the players that want to play? You make an executive decision to shut down the conference. That's fine. So why are you going to punish those that are trying to find other outlets and other ways to play because they want to do it that desperately? You didn't listen to them. You didn't listen to them when they tried to get your attention, when they tried to voice their opinion saying they desperately want to play. You didn't listen to them then. And now that you've shut them down, you're going to punish them for trying to do something they want to do? Why? Takes revenue away from their conference. If Nebraska leaves and goes to the SEC gets that revenue, not the Big Ten. It's a money game, guys. It's a money game, and it's very unfortunate. I think Mitch definitely said it best. If you cared about your student athletes at all, you would let them play football, but most importantly, you would listen. You would listen to them, and they're not. These athletic directors, these presidents, these commissioners, they're not. And it's extremely, extremely unfortunate. Luckily, only 2 of the major conferences have made that decision so far. Let's just hope the other 3 stay on track and we can actually have a season here pretty soon. So again, I'm going to throw in the number here in a second, guys. It is now 8:42, so we've got about 20 more minutes or so to really jump on the calls and talk to you guys a little bit. But I do want to scroll through a few more live chats. We got Brian Korth on the line. I hope he's still here with us. Brian, appreciate your support and your comments on our videos as always. And I'm still working on that Patreon account. We're very, very close to getting that up. And that goes for everybody for some exclusive content. We're going to have a Patreon account up very, very soon. And hopefully we'll have a season where we can actually put that exclusive content to use. And so, of course, we'll make that those tiers and those content availabilities. We'll release those to you very, very soon so we can kind of jump on that and you guys can get more analysis from us here on YouTube. So we're going to continue to kind of scroll through the rest of the comments here. But first, we're getting a call all the way from Bristol, Rhode Island. I do want to take this one.
Hunter Shin.
Hey, Hunter. How you doing?
What's going on, man? How you been?
I'm doing all right. It's been a while.
Yeah, I know. Good to hear your voice.
Hey, you too, man. You too. I'm glad to hear you're doing well.
Yeah. So are you all caught up with the chat, or do you need a little while?
No, man. I'm scrolling through it as I'm talking to you a little bit. Let me give a couple guys a few shout-outs, and we'll get right back to you.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, so Hunter's on the line here. We're going to get right back to him. I do want to give a shout-out here to Vol Steak. I like how you do not copy Uncle Lou. You have your own personality. It's good to see. So, Vol Steak, I really appreciate you, man. I don't think we've ever seen you before here on our live stream. So, if this is your first time, thank you so much for joining us. And, of course, we try to differ and bring a little bit more of original content here. Try to be as original as possible here at the Gridiron Expert. Uncle Lou, great content over there. We've discussed it a little bit. Mark Rogers, great content over there. Good friend of mine. So we all are a little bit different, but at the end of the day, we're all the same in terms of our goals and our passion, which is, of course, to bring the best analysis and content to you guys. We got Keto here. He might not be here right now, but we do want to give him a shout out. Of course, Keto always providing some great content on his channel and always great analysis in our comment section. So Keto, happy to have you, and hopefully able to catch you later tonight once you're off work. And T. Davis, I didn't get to him. We were on the call with, I think it was Mitch. But T. Davis, if you're still here, thank you so much for that super chat donation. That certainly goes a long way, guys. You guys have no idea. Whether it's $1, whether it's $10, like Mr. Davis, any sort of amount, it goes a long way for us in continuing to build our channel and continuing to build our brand so we can continue to bring you guys the best analysis possible. So, Davis, thank you so much. And so happy to see that you're enjoying the content. Not just now, but for the past few years, as you've said. So thank you so much for that. George Stice, nice to see you. It's been way too long, of course. I'm glad you're able to make the live stream tonight. Emperor of Rome, of course, super pumped to have you too. It's been a while since we've talked a little bit, so super pumped to have you. And, of course, guys, we're going to put the number back in the chat here in a second. I see a couple questions on that, so we'll make sure to have that out for you guys very, very soon. But I think in the meantime, we are relatively caught up as you guys are discussing. Last thing here, big unit. My thoughts on Texas A&M. My thoughts on Texas A&M, making sure I'm missing anything. Look, A&M will be playing in the SEC this year. SEC as a whole should be playing. This was the year for Texas A&M to have a breakout season. Many thought they could start 9-0 or 9-1, 10-0, somewhere around there. But of course, that all-conference slate kind of threw that away for them. But out of the 10 games that they're going to play, they should be able to win at least, I'd say, 7 to 8 of those. Alabama, LSU will be extremely tough. Auburn, of course, going to be tough. But nonetheless, A&M should be in store for their best season yet under Jimbo Fisher, regardless of the circumstances. So I know we kind of skimmed through those. We'll come back and hit any others that we missed, but we do want to get a Hunter. So, Hunter, you still with us?
Yes, I am.
All right, man. What do you got on your mind right now?
So I just wanted to talk about the We Want to Play movement real quick by Trevor Lawrence. I just want to say one quick thing about Trevor because I have so much respect for him as a football player. He is a generational talent, but for me, hearing him want to play and just the message he has sent to college football and the commissioners out there. Here's a guy who won a national championship with Clemson. He has nothing left to prove. He's going to be the number 1 overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft if he decides to enter. And he is so in love with Clemson and just loves this guy so much that he wants to play one more season. I just think that speaks volume of his character. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree 100%. 100%. That's what a lot of people have been putting out there. This is a guy, like you said, he's won a national title at Clemson. He went to another national championship last year before falling to LSU. We know he's going to be the number 1 pick in the NFL draft. We know that Clemson more than likely was going to run the table in the ACC this year, yet he continues to want to play. And I think that speaks volumes because it's not, one thing that you're seeing from Trevor is, yeah, he wants to play, but he's not even speaking necessarily for himself. He's trying to speak on all the other players in college football. Because I think a lot of them hold the same feelings towards wanting to play. And I think when you're seeing it from a guy, someone of that stature and someone of that level of play might just say, well, that's tough luck. I'm going to be set and be making millions this time next year anyway, so not a big deal. But I think that does go a long way for Trevor Lawrence. And I think, love him or hate him, whether you're a Clemson fan or not, that has to speak volumes and has to impress you because I don't know many other players that would do something like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the same can be said for Justin Fields. And, I've had my issues with him because he was able to have immediate eligibility transferring from Georgia because he didn't win a starting position. But he's going to be another high draft pick, and he wants to play one more year for Ohio State. And now he doesn't get that opportunity, unfortunately, unless Ohio State joins another conference for this season. But, yeah, I feel for all the student athletes out there who want to play for their team, and it's just taken away by the powers that be. It's just, I don't know, it's disappointing.
Well, it's extremely disappointing, and like we were talking about with Mitch, I think it's extremely wrong for a team like Ohio State and Justin Fields that if they wanted to play, because I can guarantee you, I think we all know that if Ohio State came knocking at the SEC's door to play in their conference for one season, or maybe the Big 12 or the ACC, whoever, they would graciously accept them, I would think. And so I think it's unfortunate that the Big Ten is wanting to punish and prevent these teams from trying to play because they decided to get a little selfish and decide to jump the gun and decided to procrastinate so long and cancel the season and ruin maybe the careers and the chances for all of these student athletes. I think that's extremely wrong. And again, like you said, the fact that we have the top 2 quarterbacks at the FBS level deciding to advocate not for themselves but for the entirety of college football, I think does speak levels. And I think Justin Fields, I feel for him even more because I think after the way last year ended, throwing that interception in the playoff to Clemson, I think he was certainly out for revenge and certainly out for a little bit of redemption and wanted to finish his career strong. And so this is, within the Big Ten and the Pac-12, we are seeing, I wouldn't say once in a lifetime, but some of the best talent we've seen in years in college football. And we didn't know it, but 2019 was the last time that we were ever going to see them play at the college level. And I think that's something that the higher-ups didn't even think about. I don't really think they even took that into consideration. These guys came back for a reason. I think, there are a lot of players, you and I both know, that could have gone pro last year, but came back for some unfinished business, came back to try to win a bowl game, to try to get to the playoff, whatever it may be. And now, with a snap of your fingers, you've taken that away. And I think that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. And, I'm a huge college football fan in my own right, but to me, it wouldn't feel the same to have a season without fans, without the marching bands out there. There's just so much pageantry and tradition to college football, and the fans definitely play a big role in what makes the sport so special. So as much as I want it, to me, it would kind of feel like, a lost cause is kind of a strong phrase, but I don't know. I guess that's the only thing I can come up with right now. What do you think?
Yeah, I've thought the same thing, and I've talked with a lot of people about that. And real quick, before I jump into that, I want to give a quick shout-out to DM for that super chat donation. Looking good in the Rutgers scarlet red tie. Of course, DM, you and I both disappointed that we won't be able to watch Greg Schiano this season, but always got to represent the red. And Brian Korth as well for that super chat donation. Both of y'all, thank you guys so much. And Brian, we're going to get to your comments here very soon as well. So thank you guys so much again. Those go a long way, more than you guys know. But Hunter, like you said, I personally I agree with you on that. And I think, a lot of people would say that's ridiculous, but I've looked at it from this perspective the whole way here. 2 Power 5 conferences have canceled. And I think the Big Ten was a bigger deal than the Pac-12 because the Big Ten had more contenders. Oregon and the Pac-12 may have contended for a playoff spot, but Big Ten had Ohio State and Penn State, Wisconsin, Minnesota, guys like that. And you take away, like you said, the marching band. You take away the fans. You take away some of the elite teams. Do you even consider this season? Do you even count it? How do you have a playoff? How do you have bowl games for some of these lower level teams? If someone wins a conference championship or somehow wins a national championship, if we do in fact have one, at the end of the day in the history books, are you going to consider that to count? Are you going to consider that to be real? What are we playing for here? And someone once told me, they said, well, what if the SEC was the only conference to play football here? Because, the South, very different when it comes to their football. I would say I think it's pointless. While I would still watch it, as many others would still watch it, because any football is better than none. At the end of the day, what are you playing for? Because a team like Alabama, sure, could be crowned SEC champions, but they wouldn't be crowned a national champion, and that's obviously the ultimate goal of some of these elite teams. So when you take so much out of it, like you said, so much of the pageantry out of the game. Like you said, I wouldn't say it's a lost cause, because if we do get football, I'll be thrilled, and I know you will be, and it'll be better than not having any at all. But it just feels like, it just feels like it's not right. It always feels like there will be this big smudge on anything that happens in this season.
Yeah, absolutely. And if there is no football, I guess I'll just be out on the golf course a lot more. So I guess that's not a bad deal.
Hey, that would be me too, man. Me too.
I do want to give a quick congratulations to Colin Morikawa for winning the PGA Championship. I mean, that shot at 16 was incredible. The drive on the par 4 to about 7 feet. So congratulations to him. Big things coming for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think many people had him pegged to win that one. So that was definitely extremely impressive.
Absolutely. So, all right. Yeah, that's going to do it for me. But thank you so much, Gigi. Always a pleasure talking to you.
Hey, right back on you, Hunter. Thanks for calling in, and glad to hear you're doing well.
Absolutely. Good night, man.
You too. All right, so that's our good friend Hunter Shin, guys. Always providing some great discussion here. All the way from Rhode Island, I should add, guys. Big Virginia Tech fan, all the way from Rhode Island. So, Hunter, again, always a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for calling in. And again, I'm going to go hit up a couple of these chats real quick before we put the number back in there, and we'll take 1 or 2 more calls. And then for the rest of the night, guys, it is all chat all the time. It is live chat for the rest of the night here in a second here. But again, I want to make sure I'm not missing too much here on everything else. We talked about Texas A&M from Big Unit. DM making a great point here. Ironically, Schiano and other first-year coaches at bottom feeder programs benefit from a canceled season as they enter 2021 undefeated, plus ample prep and training time with the players. So, in a sense, if you take a bottom feeder team, maybe Rutgers in the Big Ten, Arkansas in the SEC dealing with a brand new coach, Missouri even in the SEC dealing with a brand new head coach, among the many others, maybe having a year off would be great. Of course, the SEC not getting that luxury, the ACC not getting that luxury, but you can look at it from both ways. Great that you get more time to prepare. Great that some of the players, guys, that came out today too. If a player chooses to opt out due to the virus, if a player was part of a conference that decided to quit the entire season, they will get that extra year of eligibility. So that is a huge sign, guys. So if you have a senior that came back this season and chooses to opt out or was part of the Big Ten or Pac-12 and won't get to play at all, that senior could stick around for one more season, get that extra year of eligibility, and still play in 2021. So in that regards, that is huge, and that is huge for a team that's maybe a bottom feeder, getting that extra practice time, extra time to really think and get angry, get ready to play. On the flip side, you could take it as 2020 college football almost feels like a lost cause, as Hunter and I were just discussing. And for those bottom feeder programs that aren't planning on having great seasons, probably don't have bowl expectations or anything, they could use that as an opportunity to go out there, just play ball, see what they have, and really have nothing to lose. So you could play devil's advocate, and you could see benefits from both sides of that. Unfortunate for Rutgers, that was a team that was really excited to watch this year, not because I thought they were going to contend and contend heavily, but just because I was interested to see the culture change and the player change, the type of passion and energy and effort change from Greg Schiano that he was going to provide up at Rutgers. And, of course, we'll have to wait one more year just to get to see that happen. So, but great discussion, DM. A very good point there. I'm going to continue to scroll through here. Cyclone Mitch, once again, always a pleasure talking to you, and I'm sure we'll be talking very, very soon as well. We got a lot of stuff coming up here in the next few days. We got Just Joe with us. Brian Korth. I'm sorry if I said that you called. I apologize. But again, regardless, always happy to have you here with us on the live chat. Always glad hearing from you. And Gerald Burt, I appreciate you putting that number back out there. I do want to throw that back out here in a second as well. Kicking Nerd has crowned coronavirus as the 2020 national champion. I don't know. It seems fair to me. Brian saying that he thinks some conferences are protecting themselves from legal liability. SEC and ACC getting different legal advice than other conferences, and they feel comfortable with their precautions. I don't know, guys. I really don't know. Legal precautions and legal troubles when it comes to possibly getting these athletes sick. That's obviously something, a liability problem that many of these programs could have. And there's rumors going around that these conferences aren't canceling the season because of coronavirus. They're canceling the season because of their union. They're afraid of players teaming up and forming a union, very similar to what we saw out in the Pac-12. Many players threatening to boycott the season, threatening to sit out the season unless they were giving money, they were getting paid, unless they were given better COVID guidelines and safety precautions when it came to COVID. And many conferences are afraid that could happen within theirs because all it takes is one start, guys. All it takes is one team or one conference or one group to start something, and then it spreads. These unions that these players might be forming is very similar to COVID. It's going to start small, and it's going to spread. It's going to sweep the United States. It's going to sweep college football as we know it, and it could change college football as we know it. Now, of course, we don't know if these unions have been formed everywhere. They haven't necessarily been formed in every conference among every team, but it is something that I think players have opened their eyes to, and I think a lot of players feel very heavily about and very strongly about. So that is something that we need to kind of keep our eye on, and I would hope that's not the case as to why some of these conferences have chosen to cancel, because if it is, then all the leaders of those conferences and universities need to be fired immediately. Because if you are not bold enough, if you're not strong enough, if you are so scared that you can't handle something like that, then you certainly do not need to be in a position with that type of power. Now, I could be jumping ahead of myself here, but of course, those are some speculations and some rumors that have been circling around the world of college football, and it'd be really unfortunate if that were true. George Stice, I get to choose one quarterback to draft and lead my NFL team. Who am I choosing, Fields or Lawrence? Stice says Fields is very underlooked because he's really only had 1 year to prove himself. I think he's underlooked. Sure, you're right. Only 1 year to prove himself. It was a fantastic season for him. But I'm taking Trevor Lawrence all day, every day to lead my NFL team as my quarterback. Trevor Lawrence, no doubt in my mind, will take him over any other quarterback, of course, in this upcoming draft. And I think in the next few years, you will see him as one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, depending on where he gets drafted. And guys, how awesome would it be? I'm looking ahead. I don't know where Trevor Lawrence is going to get drafted. Depends on how this NFL season shakes out. But how awesome would it be if one day we get to see the great Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence meet up in a Super Bowl or an AFC or NFC championship game? The spot in the Super Bowl on the line. They met in the national championship last year. It was a fantastic matchup for about 3 quarters. How great would it be to see two of the young and maybe arguably best young QBs in the NFL, hopefully, play each other on the sport's biggest stage. Fantasizing a little bit, but would be pretty dang awesome. Will Burrow, Everson Griffin just signed with Dallas, and I did get that alert right here on the phone. That is a huge, huge pickup for the Dallas Cowboys, guys, providing an extra boost along that defensive line. I actually just saw a list yesterday, Will, listing out the top 10 remaining free agents, and I think Griffin was up there in the top 5 and could not believe that he was still left. I thought he had been signed somewhere. So that is a huge pickup for the Cowboys there, providing an extra boost on that defense, which, as we all know, desperately needs it. And I want to put that number back in the chat, guys. Like, again, we're only going to take about one more call, so whoever wants it better get there quick. We're going to take our last call, and then we're going to move solely to the chat as we're kind of working our way down it right now. 901-297-4545. That is the number here, guys. That will be our last call of the night. Of course, this will not be the last live stream that we do, though, so there'll be plenty of time in the future for more calls. Brian Korth, once again, thank you so much for that super chat donation. Not 1, but 2 tonight already. So thank you so much. Do I think it's a little late for the players to form a union? It would take a major effort. Yeah, maybe I misspoke there, Brian. I didn't necessarily mean that it was happening right now, because I agree, it is a little too late. The Pac-12 tried it. The Pac-12 was looking at forming their little union, kind of trying to boycott this season. They wanted better, like I said, COVID guidelines and procedures, safety precautions. They wanted that. And then the biggest thing was the money. They wanted 50% of all Pac-12 sports revenue distributed among the athletes, not just in football, but among all Pac-12 athletes. And then they wanted the officials, the presidents, the athletic directors, guys like that. They wanted them to take significant pay cuts. Both of those, to me, absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous demand. So, yes, right now, with the season being about a month to a month and a half out, it is too late for those unions to form, because if they did that, you're not going to have football, especially if they did that in the Big 12, ACC, or SEC. But if people in the Pac-12 continue to hold those feelings, continue to start brewing and brainstorming over this offseason, because they're not going to have a season anymore, you could see those unions start to take place in the few months or in the offseason. And that's where the 2020 season could be put in jeopardy, because you're going to force these conferences' hands. You're going to force their hands, and they're going to have to realize, what do we do? Do we give in? Do we give in and give them what they want? Do we give them the money? Do we give them, do we give the coaches pay cut? Or do we say, forget it? And more on that here in a second. Our last caller of the night at the buzzer from Hopewell, Pennsylvania. Let's see who we got. All right, you are our last caller of the night. You're on the Gridiron Expert. Who do we have?
MSU #1 fan.
That is exactly who I was hoping would call in, because I saw that you were asking for the phone number just a few minutes ago, and we weren't able to get to you. So how are you doing?
I'm great.
Awesome. Well, hey, thank you so much for calling in. And what do you have on your mind? What's going on?
I think that they want to do spring football, but that's not going to work. You know what I mean? In a calendar year.
You're talking about spring football, right?
Yeah.
Right.
The Big Ten said, we can do two seasons in one.
Yeah, the Big Ten did say that. They did believe they could maybe try to figure out a way to do that. And I'm here to tell you and here to tell everybody else, if you ever read a report out there, guys, about spring football, do not believe it, because we will not have spring football.
I don't think we will either. I think we should just wait till next season.
I agree with you. And I know that, and I think for all of us being college football fans, that hurts to say. No one wants to wait a whole nother year for college football. But at the end of the day, a spring season just isn't feasible. So if you're going to cancel, we just have to wait until the fall of 2021 to see football again. I wholeheartedly agree with that.
Yeah, and it's like you want kids to be healthy in that, but do you want them to take the risk of getting sick and die? Or do you wait another year and see what it's like then?
Sure, right. Well, that's the thing. I would hope and pray that at this time next year, we will have this pandemic under control, hopefully eradicated from the United States, and we can continue on with our normal lives. There's no way college football could take 2 years off, let alone maybe 1 year off. But I do agree with you 100% that spring football isn't feasible. And if the ACC or the Big 12 starts to play in early September, or maybe another conference does, and they begin to have outbreaks, the rest of the conferences would probably cancel as well, and then we would just need to wait until fall of 21 to resume.
Yeah. What are your thoughts from the 2015 Michigan State game last play?
Well, with you being a diehard Michigan State fan, I think the answer you would want to hear from me is I loved it. And, as a college football fan, I did love it. I'll never forget where I was watching that game. Actually, wasn't even. I never really either. Yeah, I'm sure you won't. I wasn't even at my house. I was on the road actually, but was able to watch it live, thinking that Michigan chose some very questionable play calls down the stretch. I thought they had that game won. And after that play happened, sitting there with a surrender cobra, just like the viral man did for Michigan, couldn't help but think, if that punter had just fallen on the ball, had he just, kicked it out of bounds, whatever had happened, or just taken the tackle, Michigan probably still could have won that game, and they were unable to do so.
Yeah, they had a running back and the fullback who was averaging over 5 yards a carry.
Right. So you just.
I'm surprised they didn't go for it and run it. In Michigan State, only had the Hail Mary.
Sure. Well, I think Harbaugh wouldn't have gone for it. They were pretty deep in their own territory when that play occurred, but that's why he would have chosen to punt it. But with only a few seconds left, it would have made more sense to even have your punter catch it, run around in circles for a few minutes, and then fall down. You probably still win the game. So.
Yeah. Do you think Michigan State will do better in 2021, or worse?
I would think my opinion of Michigan State would change drastically in 2021 compared to what it is now. I didn't have high hopes for Michigan State at all this season, but considering the Big Ten isn't playing football, they're going to get a whole offseason now with their players, who most of which should stay. They're going to get a whole offseason to work with Mel Tucker and his staff, and I think they can end up being in for a better 2021 season than they would have had this season.
And another question I had, and I'll let you go. What do you think will happen with the schedules?
How so? What do you mean?
Will we still keep our non-conference games with at BYU, Toledo, and Miami at home?
You will not. I can almost guarantee you that. The way, since college football, they schedule so far in advance. Some of these teams have games scheduled as far as 2030. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And you just can't, unless teams want to try to rearrange. maybe back out of some 2021 non-conference games to get some of those marquee matchups back. Maybe they're able to do so, but that to me is way more complicated than trying to keep what you already have set in stone. So no, the Michigan State games against BYU and Toledo and guys like that, unfortunately, Miami even, unfortunately, aren't going to happen in 21.
Yeah. And the marching, I like good football, but the band's one of the best things about college football.
Yeah, Hunter and I were talking about that. It is one of the things that brings some pageantry and some fun to the football games. Whether you're there in person or even watching on TV, you're able to hear them loud and proud. And certainly a group that does not get enough attention and enough credit like they should.
Yep. I have an idea what they could do.
And what is that? We'll make this the last one before we get down to our live chat.
All right, I have an idea. I subscribe to Ballard Sports Media. He said to have a tournament and just throw them all together and have a tournament. There you go. Season.
It as much fun as I would love to see that. As much fun as that might be, I think a lot of teams would be anti-tournament because that might just mean one loss and you're done for the year. So March Madness style would be fantastic for some, but devastating for others.
Yeah, that's just my call.
Hey, absolutely. Thank you for calling in. I'm glad we were able to get to you.
Yep.
All right, you have a good night now.
Yep, you too.
All right. Michigan State's #1 fan, guys. The #1 fan. They just called in. And that is our last caller of the night. So, guys, for now, for the rest of the night, probably till about, 9:45, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there, we are taking your questions, your comments, and sole discussion right here from the live chat. And I'm just going to scroll all the way back up to kind of see where we're at here. I'm trying to kind of double up and trying to skim through the rest of the comments so we can catch up as best as we can. We've got Will Burrow here. Do we think that it's possible that teams are playing this year could get athletes from other schools that still want to play? Will, that is a great question and a rumor that is circulating throughout college football, guys. And that's one of the things that I hate about this whole situation right now is there's so much speculation. There are so many rumors going around, guys. You don't know what to believe. I mean, just take the other day, for example. The other day, some of the nation's top analysts were coming out and saying the Big Ten is already canceled. It was a 12-2 vote. We're done. And then you get a couple other analysts come out there and say, no, that's not true. They never even voted in the first place. They're saying they're going to try to delay the season. Nobody knows what is going on. And that sounds insane to say, but no one knows what's going on. And I might get ridiculed for this, but shame on the reporters and shame on the analysts out there for trying to get that, the credibility, trying to be the first person to put out the story when you don't even know all the facts. You can't trust all your sources. You cannot trust all your sources. You cannot believe everything you see or you hear. And so until it's officially confirmed, don't put anything out there because all you're doing is you're stirring the pot and you're making the situation worse. They did that the other day when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were talking about quitting. No one knew what to believe. People just need to stop doing that. Stop fighting to get that first edge. Stop fighting to be the guy that's the first person to report. Instead, maybe focus a little bit more on being credible, on being reliable. And then maybe people will respect you a little bit more. Plain and simple. But Will, to answer your question, will athletes from other schools get to play? No, I don't think they will. Because that throws a whole wrinkle in your eligibility and your transfer portal. With knowing the NCAA, they probably would allow anybody to go play because the NCAA doesn't have a method when it comes to allowing transfers to play immediately or not. They have no method. They have no credibility. They have no consistency when it comes to that. But, Will, I will say this. You take some big-name players out of the Big Ten and the Pac-12, and you start bringing them over to the SEC or the ACC or the Big 12 or something like that to play, not only are you going to create some competition, because imagine if Justin Fields tried to transfer back to Georgia. I mean, he'd probably get the job, but still, imagine if he tried. you're not only going to create some competition right before the season starts, but you're just going to throw a whole loop in everybody's plans and really affect not only other people's draft stocks, but you're going to affect other people's seasons as well. I think it would be unfair. I think it would be chaotic. I just don't think it's feasible. If they are a younger player, freshman, sophomore, they're going to transfer to another school to play for a few years, I'm all for it. But if you were a player like, say, Justin Fields, who we all know is going pro after this year, I don't think that would be fair, and I don't think it would be feasible and reasonable. And DM bringing me that Louisville pronunciation. I saw a sign the other day. I think it was in Louisville, Kentucky, and it had phonetically how people say the city name. And there were about 5 different ones. I think at the end of the sign, it was like, doesn't matter, it's all the same. I'm sure there is an exact way to say it, but depending on who you talk to, what you listen to, it's always different. Just one of those things, guys. It's super weird. But I love the banter about how to exactly pronounce it. And we're scrolling through here. Scott Van Kale, of course, trying to remind us, guys, mask and social distancing. That is the turnaround that we need. That is the turnaround that we need. And what we need people to understand is just be safe, just be smart. At the end of the day, guys, this is the coronavirus is the reason that we're doing this live stream right now. The coronavirus is the reason that we're in the middle of all this mess. The reason that we're not having college football among the Big Ten and Pac-12 schools. The reason that there's speculation that we might not have football at all. The reason that March Madness was canceled. The reason that so many people were let go of their jobs. The reason that so many kids were sent home from school. The reason that so many kids are getting sick now that they've returned to school. The reason that so many people are not going back to school and they're doing all virtual. The reason that so many people are still unemployed. Whatever you want to look at it, the coronavirus is the reason that 2020 has been pretty rough. And it just blows my mind that we all have a common enemy right now, and that is the coronavirus. That is COVID-19. And yet we've made it very political. And instead of trying to all unite and fight this common enemy in COVID, we have divided yet again into sides. The maskers and the no maskers, the vaccine people, the anti-vax, the believers, the non-believers. Why? At the end of the day, it's real. It is out there. Take it from a guy that's actually had it, that's dealt with it, that was down for the count for 2 whole weeks. Missed school, missed work, missed everything for 2 whole weeks. It is real. And we're seeing it. We're seeing the numbers. We're seeing people that have suffered, whether they've actually contracted the virus or whether they've suffered from it from their work or family members that have passed away or whatever it may be. Just look at these college football players, for example. They're getting affected drastically by this virus. We all have a common enemy, yet we're choosing not to fight it. We're choosing to fight one another. And I wish that was something that more people could wrap their head around. I wish that was something that more people could realize. But the fact of the matter is that it's not. It's just not. It's just the way people are, and you can't change that. You just can, as Scott has said multiple times, and many people will say multiple times, you can only do the best you can. You do what you believe is right for you. You do what you think is right. And you can only control yourself. You can't control anybody else. And that is facts and truth for any situation, anything in life. And sometimes it's a hard truth to really understand. And excuse that spiel on coronavirus. I'll stop that. But Scott bringing that up about mask and social distancing and stuff like that kind of got me thinking about that, guys. The situation is not a difficult one. The decisions are not a difficult one, yet we're making it a difficult one. And it really is unfortunate. So catching up here on the rest of the live chat, we've got Lou on the line. Lou, if you're still here, and I hope you are, it's been about 15 minutes since you commented. Thank you so much for showing up. You and I talking late last night. I don't know what you were doing up at like 2 in the morning, but thank you for commenting on the video last night. I'm super glad you were able to join us on the live stream. We invited Lou to our live stream last night. He said, I view that as an invitation. I was like, of course it is. We want as many people here on the chat as possible. We want to talk to as many people as possible. So now Lou is with us tonight. So Lou, hope you're doing well. I'm sure with your, judging by your logo, you could talk to DM and some other people and to me even about the correct pronunciation of Louisville or Louisville. But again, thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are thrilled to have you. Josh Benedict, good to have you as well. And, I look at this, Josh. You're saying just wait until next season. Are you serious? That's, again, don't misconstrue what we're saying here. We don't want to wait until next season for college football. Absolutely not. We want college football now. Keep in mind, guys, today is what, August 12th? We should be 17 days out from week 0 on August 29th. Instead, we're going to have to wait till maybe September 12th, at least maybe September 26th for any hope of college football. We don't want to wait till next year. But if everybody were to cancel, you would have to, because a spring season is not feasible. A spring season is not possible. I can promise you that. Mitch talked about it. Hunter talked about it. We've all talked about it. Michigan State's #1 fan, they talked about it. A spring season will not happen, and I can give you 1,000 reasons why. One of them, of course, is the physical toll. Urban Meyer even came out with that. You look at some players maybe take 2,000 consecutive reps, practice and games alike. You play those players from January to March, let's say. You only have about a 4 or 5 month break from March until when the regular season would begin again in the fall. Because if you play spring football, you're not going to go spring football every year. You just can't. You can't do that. It'd be ridiculous. You're going to have to find your way back to the fall at some point. Playing in the spring would not only take a physical toll on those players, mental as well, but obviously decision-making and scheduling-wise, it would be horrible and horrendous for the sport. Because as many have said, some of the nation's top athletes would choose to opt out. Maybe they wouldn't have opted out in this fall, but in the spring, they're just about a few months out from the NFL draft. So why would you risk playing in the spring when you know you're going to get drafted regardless? Why would you risk playing if it's going to screw up your draft status or screw up your chances of starting training camp with a new NFL team or something like that? So your timing screws everything off. So spring football, guys, at the end of the day, isn't feasible. It's just not. And whether you like it or not, spring football would also interfere with sports like basketball, baseball. If you went later in the spring, college baseball usually starts in February. So you're looking at TV time there as well. You've got football, then you've got basketball, which in a normal year you'd have NBA at the beginning of the year in January, February as well. You'd have college basketball, and ESPN and CBS and NBC and Fox, all those guys don't want to fight for those revenues. They don't want to fight for who's going to be on what channel. The reason we have seasons is so we can consistently get those sporting events on the TV, and we're not really fighting for it. We're not really struggling to decide, all right, we've got basketball on this day, but we also have football on this day. What are we going to do? How's this going to work? So again, if you see articles out there, or if your conference has told you that we are canceling, but we're looking at playing in the spring, don't believe it. Just know that you're going to have to wait a whole nother year, and in 2021, your team will come back bigger and better than ever, hopefully. Because spring football is not possible. Maybe for some smaller programs, Division III, Division II, maybe. But FBS and even FCS, I would say, for that matter, it's not going to happen. So again, Josh, we didn't want the season to end now. Of course, we don't want to wait till next season. I'm all for playing football now. I'm just saying if everybody started to cancel, that's the route we would have to go. So we're looking at here, Brian Korth. The idea of compensation for college players has been talked about for years now. It's nothing new. The Pac-10 players' demands are new and completely ridiculous. And I fully agree. I fully agree that it is ridiculous and shouldn't happen. Here's the thing, guys. I think a lot of people aren't going to like this answer either. When it comes to those compensation rules, guys, here's the thing. I believe that these players are getting paid through their scholarships. I believe that when you are getting a full ride to go play basketball or football or baseball or whatever it is, that's your payment. A lot of people don't like to hear that. And I understand it. I do understand that. if you had the video games still around, NCAA football video games, I know we all love those. If those were still around and those video games were using the player's name, they were using a lot of that and they were making money off of them, pay the players. If schools were selling jerseys and T-shirts and memorabilia with the player's name on it, they deserve money. Their number? No. If they're selling a jersey with the player's number, they don't deserve money because the number 5 could be the 5s of the past, could be the 5s of the present, and could be the 5s of the future because some of those kids wear those jerseys for years. I know I did. These players are getting paid to go play football and basketball at these programs. They're getting paid through those scholarships, guys, and I think asking for a lot more money on top of that is a little bit ridiculous. And like you said, I think asking for 50% of the conference's revenue over an entire year to spread among all the athletes is ridiculous because that would drain the conference. That would drain the athletic departments and all of these programs within the conference. I think it's preposterous. It's outrageous. And I know a lot of people don't like to hear that. I know a lot of people disagree with that. But at the end of the day, you got to look at it from different standpoints, guys. Yes, they do bring in a lot of money for their schools. These athletes do. TV revenue, obviously merchandise sales, ticket sales. Yes, they bring in a lot of money to their program. The school is providing you with basically a free education. The school is providing you for that opportunity to bring money into them. You don't necessarily get a scholarship to Alabama or Clemson or somewhere like that. They're providing you with that opportunity to play for that program, which you are choosing to do, and then you are given a free education if you were to stick around for a full 4 years to get your degree. You don't have to. You can go pro. That's fine because you're going to be making millions of dollars there anyways. My take on it would be I'm fine paying players, but here's how I would do it. I would pay players and put the money into a 4-year trust. And hear me out here. You do a 4-year trust. Set amount of money. The money does not change regardless of how good you are. Trevor Lawrence would still receive the same amount of money as the third-string kicker. Every college player gets a set amount of money, if this is how they decide to do it, goes into a 4-year trust that no one can touch. The players cannot touch that money until their time is up. And that's not forcing those players to stay for 4 years. If they leave to go pro after 2 years or 3 years, they'll get their money, but it's not going to be the full amount. But they cannot touch that money until they have left the program, until they have left the school, not to go to another school, but until they have left the program and their football career is done entirely, at least at the college level. That's how I would do it for me. It's not going to be a lot, but it's a little extra money here. So when they are out in the real world, whether it's not playing football or whether you are playing football, you've got a little extra cash on your side here. It would be unfair to, fluctuate the value. Trevor Lawrence gets paid way more than this kicker. That's not fair. Everybody gets to pay the same amount, but no one's allowed to touch that value. No one's allowed to touch that money until you are done playing football. I think that's extremely fair. I think it would meet their demands. The athletes might not be happy about it. They might not be pleased with it. But to me, that's the only way that it's fair. And the only way to ensure that these athletes don't take this money and then go blow it. You don't want to give them all this money and then see it gone within a week or two. So that's the only safe and fair way to me for us to pay college athletes. But again, excuse that little rant there. I do think the Pac-12 demands are ridiculous, and I think that's the only way to really handle that situation. Michael Buck. I don't even know if he's still here or not. It's 9:13 when he commented. It's almost been 20 minutes. But Michael Buck, what did you miss? Well, you missed some great calls tonight. You missed some great discussion about paying athletes. You missed great discussion about spring football. Obviously, you missed great discussion about the Big Ten and the Pac-12 canceling their seasons, unfortunately. And then, of course, Michael wants to troll and say that Cole Kelly is the greatest quarterback of the decade and wants to know if he can trust us. That, to me, sounds like a personal issue. We got BW here. Go Aztecs. San Diego State, baby. Unfortunately, not going to be able to see them in the Mountain West this season. That was a team I was looking forward to watching this year with Brady Hoke, right? Brady Hoke now the new head coach for the Aztecs. Rocky Long stepping down, for some reason going to New Mexico as defensive coordinator. And now you've got Brady Hoke, who used to be DC, at San Diego State years ago, was recently, and is now the head coach. It's funny how things come full circle. But I hate that we're not going to be able to see the Mountain West play because the Mountain West had so much turnover when it came to their head coaching positions. Outside of Boise State, who was probably going to be the favorite within the conference, Mountain West would have been pretty fun to watch this year. I think Hawaii would have still been pretty solid. You would have looked at San Diego State, of course, pretty solid. Air Force, of course, always a great team to watch, although without Donald Hammond, I don't know how they would have fared, but still, unfortunate that we're not going to be able to watch them. Scott Van Kale, what do I think about Baylor's new conference schedule? Only game left in question is the only non-conference game. Scott, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Today has been such a whirlwind. I haven't even been given a chance to dive into these schedules for the Big 12. I know they've been released. I took a quick glimpse at them, but didn't really get a chance to really look at them, to dive too deep into them. And that's something I'm going to do tonight because once the Big 12 finalizes their schedules, once the Big 12 finalizes their schedules and puts those non-conference games in there, I'll go through. We're going to rework those predictions, and we're going to put them out here on the channel for all of you guys to see. So I am interested to see who Baylor schedules as their non-conference game. Of course, it could be Louisiana Tech, as you and I have discussed, but I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure what to think about it because I haven't really looked at it. And that's on me being swamped. So my mistake. DM Sam at high school in Barrow, Alaska, plays outdoor football. The field is next to the Arctic Ocean. Occasionally, a polar bear wanders onto the field. YouTube videos on this program. I guess I missed a comment from Sam earlier. But Brian Korth knowing what's up. Alaska football is the real deal. And DM and I have talked about this a little bit about football in Alaska, and that actually might be a video topic just for the heck of it, because I think a lot of people, oddly enough, forget Alaska as a state. You forget it's up there in that very tip northwest part of the country, and you surely don't think of Alaska having any football up there because obviously you believe it to be extremely cold and impossible to play football, and they don't have a D1 college football team, so of course you don't really hear about it, but high school teams do play out there. They have a couple, I think, Division II teams maybe that play up there. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong on that. I think I actually am wrong on that. I don't think they do. But they do have high school football. And can you imagine, guys, being in Alaska and playing high school football next to the Arctic Ocean? You look over, you glance, you see a polar bear, some other sort of marine life out there, and you just go, it's just another normal day. Just another normal day in Alaska. I think Alaska, I think Hawaii, I think maybe, down in Florida near the beach, I think those would be really cool places to play football. Alaska and Hawaii for sure. And Hawaii's got some legit football powerhouses too. Don't sleep on that. Cyclone Mitch, my man, I just missed it. Hey, thank you so much for that super chat donation, guys. The past couple live streams that we've had, we have gotten a ridiculous amount of super chat donations, something that we never, ever got prior to that. So I don't know. Maybe we're doing something right here. But Mitch, thank you so much for that donation. Again, guys, any donation, $1, $100, it doesn't matter. It goes a long way, and it matters so much to us. So Brian Korth and Mitch and Mr. Davis, all of you guys as well, thank you so much for those donations. DM as well. That scarlet red tie, baby. It goes a long way. We got Sam here, 9:17 p.m., so it's been about 17 minutes. Does the situation mark the end of the NCAA? They've been nothing but a failure in coordinating the response to this, and two front conferences going down alone is proof of that. And that probably came in when we were going on a little bit of a rant there, but Sam, I think you're right. I actually do think this is the end of the NCAA. I don't think it's going to be next year. It might not even be the year after that. But in the following years, the NCAA is going to collapse, and you're going to see college football being structured similar to the way that pro sports are structured. You might see a collective bargaining agreement among all of the college athletes that whenever they come to their respective school, they've got to sign, they've got to jump in and agree to. because the way this has been handled, you're right, has been absolutely embarrassing. Has been absolutely embarrassing. It's been pitiful, and you really question, how did the people that are in this position, how did our leaders, presidents, or athletic directors, or commissioners, how did they even get put in this spot? And I get COVID-19 is something that no one was prepared for, no one expected. But as a leader, you've got to be prepared for anything. Always expect the unexpected. And the true test of a leader is how they respond to adversity. How do you respond to difficult situations? And they've responded extremely poorly, terribly, pitifully. So I do think this is the end of the NCAA. I really do. Like I said, it might not happen next year, might not happen the year after that, but very soon there is going to be a new structure to college athletics, to the point that if something like this were to happen again, where we had to start maybe canceling games, canceling seasons, maybe we see people start to union with each other, to unite and form unions to maybe try to get money, to try to get payments, to try to get more recognition, whatever it may be, to the point where we're not relying on some old farts up in the high chair looking down on us and laughing. No, it's going to be decided among the players and among representatives amongst the college sports, among college athletics. And I think that's what we're going to start seeing. And honestly, I might be more for that than what we have right now. Because as you all know, I hate the NCAA. Maybe shouldn't have said that. I don't know. But they're horrible. Absolutely, absolutely horrible. XT Avery Boy, do you think with the Pac-12 and Big Ten not playing football, we can allow for the American to sneak in? If you're referring to the college football playoff, I'm still going to say no. This is, of course, is the best season and the best chance for the American Athletic Conference to get a team into the college football playoff. But the problem is the American Athletic Conference, while I do believe it is the toughest group of 5 conference out there, many consider it to be a Power 6, their strength of schedule still doesn't even come close to matching up with the likes of the SEC and the Big 12 and the ACC. And we're using them as an example just because there's only 3 Power 5 conferences playing this year. The AAC, their strength of schedule still doesn't match up to them. You take away the non-conference games, the strength of schedule hurts them even worse. That's why it was such a big deal that Central Florida got to play Stanford last year and Pittsburgh last year. They were able to schedule back-to-back games against Power 5 opponents, one from the Pac-12, one from the ACC, to the point that if they had won both of those and then ran the table, you could say, well, they won in a difficult American Athletic Conference over some quality opponents, maybe like Cincinnati, Memphis, which I know they didn't do all of those, but still. And then they have a couple of quality non-conference wins to their schedule, so maybe we could consider that. But this year, I still don't think it's feasible, guys. You're looking at it from a standpoint of, let's just say hypothetically, Clemson wins the ACC, Alabama wins the SEC, and let's just say Oklahoma wins the Big 12, and you still do a 4-team college football playoff. That's 3 of your 4 teams right there, and your 4th team would more than likely go to a team like Georgia, Florida. I really don't see anybody in the ACC that could challenge for that unless North Carolina or Notre Dame maybe surprised everybody and was in contention there. Big 12, you got teams like Texas, maybe Oklahoma State, Iowa State maybe. All of those teams, to me, with 1 or 2 losses, would have a better chance of getting into the playoff than an American Athletic team. And I hate to say that because, man, I think we would all love to see UCF slip in there and really see what they're made of. Hunter Shin, you've got to ask if I think Notre Dame should permanently join the ACC. 8 conference games plus traditional rivalry games against USC, Navy, and Stanford. Look, I'm not opposed to it. Notre Dame is part of the ACC in every other sport but football, part of the ACC in basketball, so why can't you do it in football? I like the tradition of Notre Dame. I actually love Notre Dame. They're not my team. They're not my favorite team, but I do support the Fighting Irish, and I love everything about their program. And I know they get a lot of hate and disrespect and criticism for not being a part of a conference. I don't think they deserve all that hate because Notre Dame could go through and schedule a bunch of cupcake opponents, and they could do that, go undefeated, go to a New Year's Six bowl game, and maybe win one. Maybe. They really haven't figured out how to do that yet. But Notre Dame doesn't do that. They still schedule quality opponents, and this was actually going to be a year, if you counted the non-conference game, was going to be a year that Notre Dame was going to face one of their toughest schedules in a very long time. So I don't think they deserve all that hate. But I do think it's probably time they move to a conference. I think it wouldn't be a bad decision. Move to the ACC. Everybody else is pretty much part of a conference. You're part of a conference in every other sport, so why not just do it in football? And if anything, it would help Notre Dame's case because we've always said Notre Dame almost has to run the table and go undefeated to have a chance at the playoff and a national championship. You go to the ACC, you've got that conference championship to help you out. So if you're a one-loss team but you win the conference title, that boosts your chances. If you're an undefeated team and you lose narrowly in the conference championship game, there's still a chance that you can make that Final Four. So I think there's more benefits to their national title and postseason hopes, more benefits to those if you join the ACC than if you stayed as an independent. But I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon unless Notre Dame plays this season with the ACC, plays their slate of 11 games, likes it, does well in it, and thinks, hey, maybe we could do this. Because remember, the majority of their schedule this year and the past few years have been against ACC opponents anyways. So it really wouldn't hurt to throw them in there. The biggest thing would be how does the ACC handle that? If they add Notre Dame, you've got 15 teams. So do you continue to do the no divisions and top two play, or does the ACC go out and find somebody so now you have two divisions with 8 teams each? I don't know how they'd handle that, but I actually am in favor of Notre Dame switching over to the ACC. All right, so we're looking through the rest of the comments here, and we got quite a bit. I'm going to keep scrolling through. Make sure I'm not missing anything. Gerald Burt, I love it. He put an emoji, guys, of the loading screen. I don't think that's how comments work here on YouTube, but I like it, Gerald. I like your style. And again, I appreciate you joining us and sticking with us through this entire live stream. Same goes for all of you guys. Thank you. I think at one point we hit a peak of about 34, 35 viewers. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe, but especially like the video. Those go a long way, guys. Those likes help us out more than you guys know. So just hit that thumbs up button. Takes 2 seconds, less than that really. And it goes a long ways helping our analytics and helping more people find our channel. So continue to help us out with that. We really do appreciate it. Cyclone Mitch, we were talking about Alaska football, and you just recently went to Alaska. One of your fishing captains played at the world's most north football field in the world. Well, now I got to add that to my list of things to see. Now I've got to go on YouTube tonight and find the most north football field in the world and check that out. That's really cool. That's actually really cool. So, and you had some pretty cool pictures and pretty cool catches when you went to Alaska not too long ago. So that was pretty dang awesome. Alaska is certainly a place on my bucket list to go check it out. I've actually been blessed enough to go to Hawaii and explore there. I've explored the island of Oahu and Kauai, so I've been very blessed to have gotten those opportunities. But Alaska is something that I've always wanted to check out as well. Alaska and DM, as you now would know, you now would know that I do want to go check out the Adirondacks up in New York. I'm telling you guys, I've been to New York. We were there last year, and I got to hit the city, which of course is the highlights. Everybody thinks of New York, and you think of the city, the bright lights. You got Broadway, you got Times Square, all of that beautiful stuff, which was fantastic. I didn't know there was so much nature in New York. I think everybody thinks New York City is all that state is about, and there's so much more than that, so much more outside of Manhattan that I didn't get to see and really didn't even know about. So that in Alaska, which unfortunately are on opposite ends of the country, are very high on my bucket list of places to visit. Whoa, hold on here. Brian Korth here. I like this offer. I'll give you $100. Hold on, $100 if I wear a Gators hat or shirt. The next live show for the entire show. Brian, if I go out and purchase a Gators hat or shirt, because of course I don't have one just lying around, if I go out and do that, I'm going to hold you to that, and I will let you know ahead of time that it's coming. So you will be one of the first people on this live stream, so you can see that I'm actually doing that. I'm honoring the agreement. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. I love it. I love it. I'll accept that challenge. I'm just going to have to go on to Fanatics or something right now here in a second and buy me some Florida gear, some Florida memorabilia. But I love it. And thank you again, Brian, so much for that super chat donation, man. I really, really appreciate that. And yeah, he's going to throw out an old memory there. Check it out when we were at ESPN and nailed the commentary on the ESPN, on the NBA, on ESPN. That was back during the NBA Finals last year. That was the Raptors and the Warriors. And the funny story behind that whole thing was when I was there at ESPN, we met with Jay Harris. We had lunch with him, and Jay Harris was amazing. He was a great guy, gave some great advice, and love watching him most mornings on SportsCenter. But when we went to catch the end of SportsCenter, they're doing the top 10. It's over. I'm walking up there. I'm talking to everybody. And the next thing I know, I feel someone. This is weird. They feel someone. They grab me, and they're putting a pack, like a microphone. They're handing me a microphone to put in my pocket, strapped to my belt, put it up here on my collar. They put an earpiece in my ear, and they're like, "Oh yeah, you're on in like 2 minutes." Okay. All right. Yeah. So that was unplanned. Had no idea what was happening. So while I don't think it was my best performance, it wasn't my best performance. I hope it's the first of many in the future. And the highlight for that certainly was predicting the Raptors to win in 6. That was the key. I think it was just right after Game 3 or Game 4. And I went with the Raptors in 6 prediction and nailed it. I was rooting hard for the Raptors to pull that one off so I could at least salvage that moment. But Jay was amazing. L was amazing. L Duncan, both of those guys, they need to do more shows together because they're two of the best in the business, and was just so grateful for that opportunity in that moment. So, Brian, thank you for bringing that back up, and thank you so much for that super chat donation as well. Again, that goes really a long ways, and I'll be searching for some Florida gear very soon. So I'm taking a look at the rest of the comments here as we continue to wind down here, guys. Ryan Korth, is Georgia overhyped and is Kentucky back? I think Kentucky's been back for a while, guys, because they were never really anywhere elite. Kentucky football has never really been anywhere to the point where they were contending for national titles unless it was a long, long, long time ago. But compared to what they were in the late 2000s, 2008, 2009, 2010, and for that first part of this past decade, compared to what they were then, they're absolutely back. Unfortunately, with the way the SEC East is loading up, I don't ever really see Kentucky winning the East, at least in the near future. With the way that Georgia's doing under Kirby Smart, Florida's doing under Dan Mullen, and the way that Tennessee is recruiting under Jeremy Pruitt, Stoops has his hands full, and really his hands tied when it comes to trying to get Kentucky to that next level. They came so close 2 years ago, I think it was. If they had beat Georgia in that late November matchup, which of course they weren't favored in, but they did get to host. If they beat Georgia, they more than likely win the East, which would have been unreal. But they did win 10 games. They did beat Penn State. And now in Kentucky, in Lexington, the expectations used to be thrilled when you won 3 or 4 games, which included a few conference wins. Now the expectations are we got to make a bowl game. And that's just amazing how much the culture and the expectations have changed at Kentucky. So, yeah, I think they're back. And is Georgia overhyped? I will tell you what I think about Georgia after they face off against Alabama, assuming they still play early in the year. I know the SEC hasn't released their official dates and schedules yet for this upcoming season. Their defense is not overhyped. Their defense is the best in the country as of right now, until proven otherwise. The biggest question for Georgia is going to be their quarterback situation and how well Todd Monken kind of comes in there and rejuvenates this offense. That's going to determine if they're overhyped or not, and that's going to determine if they're national title contenders or not. How well does JT Daniels play? How well does Jamie Newman play? Who wins that starting job? Does Kirby Smart go with both? Who knows? I don't think they're overhyped, but I do think that if Florida wants to win the East, this is the year to do it. This is the year to do it, at least for now. DM, Kent State had Alabama, Penn State, and Kentucky on their 2020 schedule. Yeah, I would say that is pretty dang brutal. I would also say that Kent State would be lucky to have scored, let's say, 3 games, 21 points combined, average a touchdown in each of those games. Those would have been 3 of the top 25 defenses in the entire country that Kent State would have had to go up against. And Dustin Crum, guys, I'm telling you, out of the MAC. Dustin Crum, very, very solid QB. Probably could have put up some yards and maybe a few points on those defenses. Of course, the Golden Flashes wouldn't have stood a chance. But still, maybe Kent State may have dodged a bullet there, DM, by avoiding some embarrassment and maybe some physical harm by facing 2 SEC teams and then one of the best in the Big Ten. We got Craig Pina on the line. Craig, how are you doing, man? I'm so happy to have you with us. I'm doing pretty dang good. I hope you're doing well. I'm disappointed for you, man. I really am. I'm disappointed for you at Happy Valley that the Big Ten was canceled. Before that even happened, they said they weren't even going to allow fans in the stadiums, so that would have totally taken away the effect and the atmosphere of that whiteout game against Ohio State, because there would be no whiteout game. So I feel for you, man. That this was going to be a really special year for Penn State, I felt like. Maybe their best chance in a long time or in recent years to dethrone Ohio State and contend for the playoff under James Franklin. And that's all been thrown away. So I feel for you, man. I hate that for you and for the Penn State faithful, for the students, for the athletes, for the coaches, because Penn State is a team that ever since Paterno left or passed away, I should say, and that whole Sandusky scandal went down, they were a team that I really wanted to follow because, at the end of the day, the fans weren't the reason for that scandal. The players were not the reason for that scandal, and they were given such a harsh punishment for something that Jerry Sandusky did, which, again, was a horrible, horrible act, but something that, again, I felt for that fan base and felt for that for those players. But Bill O'Brien came in there, stabilized the program. James Franklin has come in and taken them to new heights. And I think he's going to keep them there for a very, very long time. Michael Hogg is with us. Michael, I hate to break it to you, man. We're not doing calls anymore. We shut those down a little while ago. Hashtag that is not fair. Yeah, I'm sorry, Michael. We took a break. We did the first half of the show was call-ins. Second half of the show we were going to dedicate solely to the chat because, of course, as we know, it's been a very busy past 24 hours in college football. We wanted to try to get as much discussion for those that did want to call in and those that wanted to just sit back and relax and enjoy the show and comment at their own pace. But, Michael, this, of course, will not be the last live stream. It will be the last one for a little while. We're going to take a little time off over these next few days to kind of evaluate the situation. This goes for everybody. We want to see the Big 12 come out with their new schedule. Once they've added those non-conference games, that'll give us time to come out with updated predictions. We want to see the SEC do the same, and we want to do the same with the ACC. The ACC has come out with their records or their schedules, but a couple teams don't have their non-conference games lined up, and a couple teams had non-conference games canceled when the MAC, the Mountain West, the Big Ten, guys like that decided to pull out. So we're going to take a few days to monitor that situation, come back with updated predictions for the remaining 3 Power 5 conferences and the rest of the Group of 5 conferences once they get all their details worked out. I moved back into school a week from today. Yeah, I think it's a week from today, Wednesday. Time flies, I'm telling you. So I moved back into school a week from today. So that's another reason we're going to be taking a little bit of time off to pack up, to drive up, to move in, to get everything settled up there. So you might see a brand new Gridiron HQ, as Emperor Rome would call it. You might see a new Gridiron HQ for a little while once we move back up there. But with how things are going among schools across the country, I have a feeling we'll be back here very, very soon. I don't think I'll be lasting up at school for very long. But, Michael, again, I appreciate you and all the support. Super happy to have you. And Hunter5657, Hunter, we always enjoy talking to you as well. And Hunter, we're not taking any more calls tonight, buddy. We're holding off tonight. We did calls in the first half. chat in the second half, just like I explained to Michael. But next time, Hunter, next time we will hear from you, man. I promise you. We're gonna get you on the line. And hey, Craig, thank you so much, man. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, love seeing how much it's grown. Me too. Unreal. It's unreal. You've been there since day one, as many of you guys have, and here we are, over 4,200 strong, guys. We're getting close to 5,000. I can taste it. I just wanted to hurry up and get here. But yeah, it's grown so much, and it couldn't have been done. It couldn't be possible without guys like you. So, Craig, thank you so much. Take care, man. Good luck at school if you do, in fact, go back, if you're not there already. And we will certainly talk very, very soon. And I think Scott Van Kale is heading out as well. So, Scott, right back at you. Stay safe. And he says sick 'em Bears. But, Scott, thank you again for all your support and all the constant news updates. We're going to hit a few more questions here in the chat, guys, and then we're going to wrap it up. 2 hours strong. Man of my word, if I should say so myself. When we talk about time flying by, time flew by when we came home for this quarantine back in March. Time has flown by tonight. Jaws fanboy predicting a close win for Ohio State over Michigan State had they played. DM, Dustin Crum had the highest percentage of all nations quarterbacks on the Manning watch list. Not only that, DM, not only was he extremely accurate and extremely well last year, and certainly deserved that spot on the Manning watch list, but he's extremely dangerous on the ground as well. Crum was very dangerous as a dual-threat QB. And I got to say, I did not pick Kent State to take down Utah State in their bowl game last year. I think it was the Frisco Bowl. I didn't think Kent State was going to get the job done. And after that game, that made me a Dustin Crum believer. So he's doing extremely well, and all the hype that he is getting, rightfully deserved. It's just unfortunate we won't be able to see him play this season. We got Gerald Burt. The conferences that just gave me a MAC that can pack with 10 and take home a Big Ten, going to the Big South, man, a long road to the junkyard. That's so whack. He used a lot of different conference names in there to make a very incoherent sentence. Gerald, Gerald, I appreciate you, man. I think I got your gist. Mina, what was my reaction to when the Big 12 decided not to cancel the season? Ecstatic. Because, guys, let me tell you what. The Big 12 single-handedly, guys, the Big 12 single-handedly may have just saved college football. And I should have said that earlier, but I'm glad I'm saying it now. The Big 12 may have single-handedly saved college football, and you'll ask how? Why? What? It doesn't make any sense. It does. You have 5 conferences, guys. You have 5 conferences, the Power 5, that really kind of conform and involve and contain the only teams that are going to contend for a national championship and a spot in the college football playoff. As much as we'd love to see teams in the American Athletic do so, UCF, Memphis, Cincinnati, guys like that. As much as we would love to see that happen, it's not reasonable. The Power 5 is the only group of conferences that can provide a national champion and provide a team that can make the playoff. When 2 of those conferences decided to step out, the Big Ten and the Pac-12, excuse me, it all came down to the Big 12 because they were meeting before the SEC and the ACC were going to. They were the first ones to meet out of the remaining 3 conferences. If they had voted to not play college football, it would have been very hard to see the SEC and the ACC continue on with their seasons. It would have been very, very hard to see the SEC and ACC say, well, 60% of the Power 5 is out, but we're going to play. And then, like we talked about with Hunter earlier, to what avail? The SEC, of course, way more competitive than the ACC. You've got teams like Alabama, LSU, Auburn, Texas A&M, Georgia, Florida. Guys like that, way more competitive than the ACC, which would really only contain teams like Clemson, now Notre Dame for this year, and then a handful of maybe surprise teams like Florida State, Miami, North Carolina, etc. But you're not going to have a college football playoff with just 2 Power 5 conferences. You're not going to have bowl games with just 2 Power 5 conferences. So what do? Do you play your 10-game slate for the SEC, your 11-game slate for the ACC, crown a conference champion when it's all done and call it quits? I guess. but the Big 12 decided to play football. So I was ecstatic when they decided to do that, because I think in doing so, it may have just salvaged college football, because to me, you can still have a playoff with 3 Power 5 conferences. You can still have some bowl games with 3 Power 5 conferences. Not to mention, you have a handful of Group of 5 conferences that have yet to back out either. So I think I was ecstatic when that happened. I was thrilled when that happened. I just pray that these conferences that are choosing to play don't back out in the following week. And I pray that whenever they start playing, that they continue to do so, and that there aren't any major outbreaks that cause them to shut it all down again. That is what I'm praying for. But I was thrilled. I was so happy, and just hope it lasts. I hope it works out. Ray Watt, do I think there will be more than one postseason, one after fall and one after spring? I don't. That's actually an interesting take, Ray. I didn't even think about multiple postseasons. But no, I don't think that's going to be possible. I think you're looking at this, Ray, as it's fall football or bust. There will be no spring football in any sort of capacity, whether that's postseason or an entire season, because, again, it's just not feasible. And for some postseason play, we've seen even on a normal year, players that sit out of their bowl games because they call them meaningless. Unless you're playing in a college football playoff game, or maybe you're playing in a game that's historic for your program, maybe a New Year's Six caliber, or maybe the first in program history. If you're a high NFL draft pick and prospect, most of those players sit out. And you would certainly see a lot of players sit out if they were saying, we're going to have the Frisco Bowl in January or February. Spring football, we're going to hold the Frisco Bowl. No one would care. Fans would. They'd love to watch it, but the players wouldn't. So no, unfortunately, I don't think you would see multiple postseasons. Michael, you start school in a week from Monday. I go to Arkansas State University. I think a lot of people didn't know that, but I do go to Arkansas State University, entering junior year, baby. So I'm over halfway done, which, again, you talk about time flying. They claim those are your best 4 years of your life, and I feel like I just started and moved in yesterday. So it's wild. It really is wild. But good luck to you, Michael, on your start for school. And as for your question, I think there will be tons more players that sit out of the college football season, just like Rondale Moore did, just like Micah Parsons did, just like countless other players across the country have done and will do in the near future. And you hate to see that. Rondale Moore did it before it was cool. Rondale Moore did it before the Big Ten canceled their season, so now it doesn't even matter for him. And if the ACC, SEC, and Big 12 play their entire season, you probably won't see too many sit out. But if they get some inside sources saying that the season's going to fall apart, or get some inside sources that they have nothing to play for, they can't play for a national title or anything, there's a very good chance that many will follow his footsteps. And then you can't help but wonder what kind of season are we really going to have. MSU's #1 fan. You think they'll beat Michigan in 2021? What do I think? I'll let you know in about a year. Early indications say no, but again, it really comes down. It comes down to who stays and who leaves for Michigan and for Michigan State. It comes down to who sticks around. Do we see guys leave early? Do we see guys transfer out? What happens at Michigan and Michigan State in the next year? That's going to really just dictate my answer to that question. But we'll let you know. We'll let you know in due time. The years are flying by, so it won't be too long. Michael, I appreciate you, and I will check my DMs when we get off of this live stream. Michael, I will DM you back on Twitter. I'll make sure to go check it out. But thank you again for all of your support, not just today, but over the past few years as well. And we're going to wrap things up here with the last few questions from Michael, or comments and questions from Brian and Michael. Brian, I'm actually majoring in what they call creative media production, which is just a fancy term and word for broadcast. I'm majoring in broadcast, pretty much. Obviously, the goal is to do something like this year-round, and I think you said it best. You know, that ESPN appearance, as starstruck as I was not only just in awe of everything there and thrilled to be there. But I was taking notes. I was taking notes from Jay. I was taking notes from L. I was envisioning myself working at a place like that, hopefully there at ESPN in Bristol. So that is, of course, the ultimate goal in due time. And I think this is the best major and the best plan of action to get to that point. So that is certainly the plan. And that's my major right now. And it's so funny. You talk to people, what's your major? You tell them that, and they go, ooh. They go, really? Broadcast? Sports journalism? Sports broadcast? Really? Heaven forbid I have to ever tell my girlfriend's parents something like that, which I don't have one, but you get the gist. The thing is, that doesn't deter me, and it shouldn't really deter anybody, because you can make a living off of that stuff. You just got to grind. You just got to keep working. So that doesn't deter me. It doesn't bother me, but it is always funny to get those reactions. I even have family members that do that. They go, you sure you want to continue this route? You sure you want to keep doing that? Because you could go into insurance. Ugh. No thanks. And Michael, congratulations, man. 49 on Monday, and you're going for the transition to teaching program. That's fantastic. That really is fantastic. And I saw that your first original degree was sports journalism, so I think it's really cool. I think that's awesome. So congrats to you, and good luck once you go back. I'm interested to see how it goes. Of course, keep us updated in future live streams, and like I said, I will get back to you here very shortly on Twitter. And with that, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. Ray, I appreciate you. We're going to keep grinding. I'm so glad that you liked it. It's been a while since we've seen you on the live stream, man. So thank you for joining us tonight. Content is not going anywhere, guys. Might be a few days off while we reevaluate and get everything put together. But we're going to be back very, very soon. And college football, one way or another, will be here before we know it. So, guys, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you all for joining us for this special live stream, guys. Last night was hectic. Big Ten cancels, Pac-12 cancels, Big 12 stays. And that may have single-handedly saved college football, as we have said multiple times tonight. And we cannot wait to see how it all unfolds in the following weeks. But from all of us here, guys, I want to thank you all so much again for joining us. You guys all have a great rest of the night, and we will see you guys very, very soon right here on YouTube on the Gridiron